This day in sports history. It's April 27th, and with the New York Knicks and Detroit Pistons locked in a first-round playoff battle right now with Game 4 this afternoon, let's go back to what happened on this day in 1984 between these two in the Showdown in Motown as Isiah Thomas and Bernard King battled each other in one of the all-time great games in the NBA playoffs. It seems like every great player has a flu game at some point in their career. You got Jordan, Kobe, Joe Montana. Well, add to that list Bernard King. This was Game 5 of the Eastern Conference first-round series between Isiah Thomas's Detroit Pistons and Bernard King's New York Knicks, played in Detroit's Joe Louis Arena. King had had an unbelievable series so far, averaging a little more than 43 a game. He'd poured in 46 in both Games 2 and 3. The Pistons had no way to stop him. They could only hope to possibly outscore him, or maybe they needed something else to slow him down, such as illness and 2 injured fingers.
He has the flu. We are thinking questionable for this game. He's playing with 2 splints because he had dislocated middle finger on each hand.
The Pistons led early in this one, forcing Knicks coach Hubie Brown to burn a couple of timeouts and shed his jacket early in a hot Joe that night. Bernard King may have been running a fever that night, but he was about to heat up on the court as well.
Again, it's Curran, matched defensively on King. One-on-one move by Bernard. At that time, no question. 5 minutes gone by, second quarter. King, yes, 18 for Bernard, and we're tied at 43.
The Pistons were matching the Knicks pretty much shot for shot in the first half, and by the time the second quarter ended, Detroit had a 2-point lead. But Thomas was not having the game that Chuck Daly needed for him to have for his team to win this crucial game. That is, until the final 94 seconds in this one. After a Ray Williams bucket, the Knicks had an 8-point lead and time was becoming a precious commodity. Thomas suddenly found a spark.
We were up big going into the last 94 seconds. And then Isiah Thomas put on one of the greatest shows ever seen in the NBA.
Knicks by 8. Here's Thomas. And the foul! King went for the steal. Isiah, 3-point attempt. He's got it! We're tied!
Thomas scored 16 points in 94 seconds to bring the Pistons back and send this game into overtime.
I don't know if I've ever seen a player really do that. Under the circumstances of a big game playoff, it was just the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen.
But the Pistons seemed to run out of steam in the overtime. New York built a 7-point advantage using a variety of players, including, of course, Bernard King.
There is King. Yes. 44 points for Bernard King.
And he hit that with 2 defenses.
King finished with 44 points and 12 rebounds and ended up breaking Elgin Baylor's playoff record for points in a series. Thomas closed out the night with 35 points and 12 assists, but it was the Knicks who pulled off the 127-123 win to advance in the playoffs. The game still amazes the legendary Hubie Brown.
No matter where I go, and I talk to people who've been around the NBA a long time, many say that is still one of the 5 greatest games ever played.
On this day in 2009, the New Orleans Hornets had one of the worst playoff performances in NBA history. This was Game 4 of their first-round playoff series with the Denver Nuggets. The Hornets came into the game feeling pretty good after a 2-point win in Game 3, and they were hopeful to even up the series with another win. And they were actually favored to win Game 4. But the folks in Vegas got this one a little bit wrong. Well, way wrong, actually.
Back comes Melo for the Nugs, under a minute to go in the first. In rhythm, and he hits it right in Page's face. A 22-point bulge for the Denver Nuggets. To James Posey, or his rough vicinity. Melo from the right wing. Yes, it is good. And Carmelo Anthony is having a game.
Carmelo Anthony was lighting up the scoreboard with 26 points on 9 of 17 shooting. The Nuggets led by 21 at the end of the first quarter. The Hornets barely scored double digits in the third and fourth quarters. And when the buzzer sounded to end this slaughter, it was a 121-63 win for Denver. The 58-point margin of victory set the record for the NBA playoffs, equaling the mark set in 1956 when the St. Louis Hawks lost to the Minneapolis Lakers by 58. It also stands as the worst home court loss in any NBA game in history. Denver went on to win Game 5 and wrap up the series to advance. Hey, you've heard me talk about the Sterling Soap Company for a while now, and whether you've jumped on board and smell like an absolute champion, or you've been a little hesitant, then here's a great opportunity for you. We're giving away a $75 gift card to use at sterlingsoap.com. Sterling Soap is 100% natural and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways for your chance to win a $75 gift card to the Sterling Soap Company. I've put a link in the show notes as well. Now, let's get back to the episode. On this day in 1947, it was Babe Ruth Day at every major league ballpark. Babe Ruth's impact on the game is pretty obvious. His personality was bigger than any athlete in the first half of the 20th century, and it's not too bold to say that the Babe saved baseball after the 1919 Black Sox scandal. But after he retired from baseball in 1935, he seemed to lose his way. Sure, the man who had a .342 career average could be seen from time to time cutting a ribbon to open a business. The guy who hit 714 career home runs on occasion handed a beauty queen her winner's sash and trophy. And the guy who also had 94 wins as a pitcher could be seen in print ads for Red Rock Cola or Old Gold cigarettes, or maybe in a short film helping a kid with his math. The man who still holds the record for the longest recorded home run was always adored by the fans wherever he went, and he never lacked for a smile. But he seemed a bit lost after hanging up the spikes, and then he developed throat cancer. So on this day, Major League Baseball paid tribute to Ruth and all that he had done for baseball, calling it Babe Ruth Day around the league. Prior to the game at Yankee Stadium, announcer Mel Allen introduced the man who really didn't need an introduction. But it did give those gathered at Yankee Stadium that day to shower him with applause and adulation one more time. The 53-year-old Ruth walked to the microphone and, in a voice affected by cancer and the several surgeries that had been performed, said these words.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You know how bad my voice sounds. Well, it feels just as bad. You know this baseball game of ours comes up from the only real game, I think, in the world, baseball. There's been so many lovely things said about me, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to thank everybody. Thank you.
He actually returned to Yankee Stadium in June the following year to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the ballpark and have his jersey number retired. At that point, he was just a shell of the man he had once been and did not speak to the crowd. He died on August 16, 1948. On this day in 1956, boxer Rocky Marciano retired. Marciano became the first and only fighter to retire from boxing as the undefeated heavyweight champ. There have been other fighters in different weight classes who have retired with no losses, and James Jeffries retired undefeated in 1905, but then unretired in an attempt to be the Great White Hope against Jack Johnson, but lost. Gene Tunney retired with the heavyweight belt, but he had previous losses. Marciano was a fighter that never listened to the critics and naysayers. He was called too awkward, not fast enough, but what he could do was take a punch. Marciano was said to have a jaw of granite. He also had fists of steel, and he just punched his opponents into oblivion. He won the heavyweight title in 1952 after beating Jersey Joe Walcott, and then proceeded to defend the title 6 more times. He won 43 of his 49 by knockout, and was only knocked to the mat twice in his career, once by Walcott and once by Archie Moore in his final title defense in September 1955. On this day in 1983, 36-year-old Nolan Ryan became the all-time strikeout leader in Major League Baseball. Ryan's Houston Astros were in Montreal taking on the Expos at Olympic Stadium. In the 8th inning, he struck out catcher Tim Blackwell to equal Johnson. Second baseman Doug Flynn was scheduled to be the next hitter, but instead he was pinch hit for by Brad Mills. And probably for the only time in his baseball career, Flynn did not mind getting replaced. Ryan froze Mills with a backdoor slider, and he struck out looking. It was Ryan's 3,509th strikeout, passing Johnson to become the all-time leader. So a couple of interesting things here. In '83, Ryan and Philadelphia Phillies pitcher Steve Carlton were locked in a tight battle atop the all-time strikeouts list. And in fact, Carlton passed Ryan later in the year due to Ryan pitching every 5th day and Carlton going every 4th day. But Ryan played for another 10 years and continued to rack up Ks. Ryan finished his career with 5,714 strikeouts in his career, 1,500 more than Carlton. Also, in a bit of revisionist history, Johnson was actually credited with one more strikeout after Ryan passed him, but by then it was a moot point. Except for Brad Mills, I suppose. He can now say his K only helped Ryan tie him. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. On April 27, 1792, Captain George Vancouver sailed past what is now Ocean Shores, Washington, and did not stop. The event, or rather non-event, is still celebrated in Ocean Shores. At midnight, folks will gather on the shore, wave, and shout, "Hey, George!" This has been an original Thrive Suite production.